Wars players. Welcome to our Sunday night coverage of the OCS playoffs. We got our first game of the round of 16 going here. We have Paul Myers and Chris Wirfs who are going to be playing tonight. Just letting them know that we are ready to go. Looks like Paul, being the number one seed, picked Chris in this, which made Chris the 16 seed. And Paul has chosen to start with light. I'm excited to see what these players bring here because, to be honest, I have been a little bit out of the loop on Open. I've been trying out some stuff for Jawa and things like that, so that's where my focus has been. But they are into the game, so let's check it out. Alright, so we have Wirfs has started the Endor operations objective. Paul Myers is on HITCO. He is the chosen one. So we'll need to wait a minute. Oh, not too long. We'll need to wait a minute to see what brand of Endor operations Chris has brought to the table, but apparently not too long. So he starts the operational as planned starting objective. That'll have us be the TTO. Will be our deck here. Okay, and then Paul has a pretty standard start here of walking like my father before me and insurrection combo. Bear with me just a second here, guys, as I'm getting the I have to get the stream pulled up here because it's not showing me it's not showing me the chat in there, so you'll need to bear with me a second before I can reply to anything in the chat. Okay, so they have activated where it starts with a short-range fighters to pick up Black 2. Pretty good cheap piloted ship. Hey Dan, thanks for renewing your subscription. And then Paul has played our only hope V to pick up the Death Star 2 Chasm Walkway. Have the choice of Yoda's Hut or a Death Star 2, a site on the Death Star 2. Paul, being aware that he's gonna have to get his own battlegrounds here to do a lot of damage to Chris, so he's likely gonna have to play that battleground. A lot of times HITCO tries not to do that, but TTO is not a deck that's going to let you avoid that, so the only battleground they're going to give you is this docking bay here, which is not really where you want to be. So Chris pulls the Endor Shield from the text on the bunker. Endor Shield V picks up Admiral Ozzel and Admiral Piet. Pretty standard so far. Black 2 deploys to the Death Star 2. Black 2 deploys to the Death Star 2 with Moff Jerjerrod as pilot. So we're probably feeling pretty safe that Paul doesn't have much to attack him with in space, which is pretty reasonable. HITCO would be unlikely to play more than splash space. Sorry, I'm scrolling back through here to try to see what. Okay, to see combat response. Okay, so Chris, the effect that operational plan lets you begin started with combat response V in his hand. Paul already had the Yoda's Hut, so makes sense that he would not pull it with the Only Hope. If Paul has relatively unprotected, he should be able to outdamage worse. Yeah, a relatively unprotected is going to be a card that'll be interesting to see if Paul has. It's a card that kind of goes in and out. TTO really the primary reason that you would have it at this point. The freezing CCT is just not really a deck you see anymore, which I think it's a shame because I liked that deck, uh, but having a pullable answer to it is is reasonable. So I don't mind the existence of relatively unprotected. I just think it's a shame that it sort of killed that deck. But that being the case, TTO again, most of the reason you'd play relatively unprotected. It's not totally useless because it is a Destiny 7 card, so you can float it around. You can put it back with 3PO or with like My Father Before Me. It does something on Star Destroyers, but yeah, it'll be the real question here is whether Paul has it at all. If he doesn't, then Wars has a good chance to be doing some damage here that Paul may not have the ability to interact with. You have to think Wirfs on CCT has played so much lately. Yeah, but the CCT that Wirfs and his teammates have been on, I assume they're his teammates, is a scum version, is not a freezing version. So that wouldn't be a reason to have relatively unprotected in there. The scum versions play the virtual carbonite chamber, so you can't even pull carbon freezing with that. So there's really no danger of getting hit by carbon freezing damage there. In the meantime, Paul used Insurrection combo to pull the Home 1 Docking Bay. He put Luke directly to the Endor Ewok Village site. So I believe what he's hoping to do here is just get his quick flip, get his free retrieval on. Hoping to be able to drain on turn 2, move the prophecy, start doing damage, start doing drains of 3 down there. And then he has the Death Star 2 site in hand if he wants to spread out and do more damage. Interesting to see HITCO here instead of one of the commuting decks or like a Lethalki Wind deck. HITCO is a pretty powerful mains platform that has a pretty solid activation package. It's nice and compact. The big trouble is just the character restrictions. Not having any Episode 1 or Episode 7 characters really puts a damper on the Episode 7 characters in particular are very, very good. And I don't actually believe that there were any HITCOs at Worlds, if I remember that correctly. Might come down to Paul just being more comfortable with HITCO. Yeah, that's certainly true. Oh, maximize my screen so I can hide the toolbar. Oh, I see what you mean. Nope. Okay. Well, hopefully my face doesn't cover up anything then. Okay. Sorry, yes. Joking, what you were saying is that Paul is just more comfortable with HITCO. Yeah, that's a reasonable reason to be playing a deck. I mean, one of the things with the way that the meta has kind of evolved in recent sets is that there's just not that much distinction between, what I would consider the tier 1 decks and like the tier 1.5 and even the tier 2. Like, there's just not that much distinction between them. There's not that much spread. Alright, so Chris has played his combat response V. He pulled Pride of the he used Pride of the Empire to check his deck after pulling a Death Star 2 sector during his activate phase. Wanted to see what he'd activated, I think, before he played all these things. So we got Vader's Personal Shuttle V deploying with Vader, Darth Vader V, Math Vader as he's affectionately known. Um, and then Admiral Piet as well aboard. So he's got the ender system secured pretty reasonably. This shuttle is going to be immune lesson 5, effectively 7, since Vader gets to subtract 2. Now that's actually pretty important because this deck likely runs a bunch of Luke Jedi Knights, so drawing a 6 is not impossible by any means. And then Worfs pulls battle plan so that Paul will have to pay for his drain. Paul pulls the don't do that again shield and uses it to pick up Virgins in the Force. Okay. I mean, running Virgins of the Force is not unreasonable. Tarkin's orders. I would certainly assume that there's a Tarkin's orders in the deck. That's a pretty common card to be playing in TTO. Paul for the chat. There's quite a number of people in the chat, so yeah, chime in, guys. 1 if you're rooting for Paul Myers, 16 if you're rooting for Wirfs. There's a bunch of 16s in there. And yeah, Joking Sense is definitely a possibility. I do think one interesting slash awkward aspect of playing HITCO and really playing any of the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight decks is that Sense can be a double-edged sword. You are certainly playing a lot of a high ability character, so you're likely to have a reasonable character target for Sense. The trouble is that the point of playing this deck is to play a pile of 6s in your characters, so you actually kind of draw 6s for Senses sometimes, and that's not the times when you want to draw 6s. So yeah, all those 6s make it tough. Yeah, I find Sense to be much more reliable in like the commuting Jedi Masters decks, in like WAP, basically any deck that's like likely to have a Jedi Master on the table. Those deck Senses pretty much a sure thing. Now those decks I guess can have a couple of 7s, but it's not that common. So now Paul is taking advantage of his objective text here, getting a free card. Chris used... Oh, there's the Tarkin's orders. And Paul will grab that. That seems reasonable. Particularly, Paul doesn't have much space, which is likely. There's not really much else that you would want to be grabbing here. The Tarkin's order is especially important because of this site. Because you can, I believe, Tarkin's orders a drain at the Death Star 2 site related to a system you control. Yep. Well, in theory, if there were more Tarkin's orders, you could Tarkin's orders the drains at the Death Star 2 chasm walkway. So we got Yoda coming down here now. So Paul's setting up for drain of 2 and 3. Presumably pulling the Hoth docking bay now with this. Sorry, at the beginning of the turn I did miss the fanfare shield for Worse picking up the Enter the Bureaucrat, so both of them now have the drain limiting effect in their hand. So this is actually going to be a drain of 2, not 3 then. And then Piet pulls Commander Marajek to pull another system. Just spread for some more damage, and Chris also played short range fighters to pick up Slave 1. Yep, Hoth docking bay, and then we got Wise Advice coming out for Paul. Doesn't seem likely there's a whole lot of shields that Paul's going to need here, so that seems like reasonable cover. Also does kind of slightly telegraph, maybe foreshadows the better word, the possible presence of Sense in Paul's deck. a lot of times if you're expecting your opponent to have Sense or Alter and you want to pull a shield against it, um, commonly you'll see people pull Wise Advice when they play Sense and Alter themselves, and then do or do not, or there is no try if they don't. It's not universal, of course, not 100%, but over under 0.5 battles this game. I'll take the over on that, JNAP, only because I think there's a possibility that there's one. There's a possibility that there's one battle that happens out of like Paul Myers playing the Tanev and just like battling at the Death Star 2 because he can, and just something like that. Or I guess it could be like, well, Conjuring the Falcon's probably not super likely out of this deck. Mostly because Han and Chewie are like two of the best characters that you're allowed to play, so you probably don't want to lock them up in the ship. Okay, so we did get the last Death Star 2 piece. Chris took a little while to assemble the Death Star 2 here. We're on turn 3. He's playing Force Push. Presumably, at least half of it is to check his force pile, but certainly picking up a card is not out of the question here. Is one of the interesting things with TTOs. There's a lot of things that you want to be able to verify your reserve deck for, between combat response and pulling TTO with the reactor core and finding your system, all that stuff. Just seeing the text on Vader's personal shuttle. I've actually seen a fair bit, a little bit, of Vader's personal shuttle non-V. I want to say most commonly out of Ralops, but now the Tarkin's orders grab Chris should be able to abuse interrupts like Voyeur. That's true. TTO, let me think about that. TTO is certainly a deck that could have Voyeur. It's not out of the question. They have less ability to pick up the specific card they want out of their deck every turn. Not as much as like Agents of the Black Sun, say. So I think it's going to come down a little bit to whether wirfs has like a 4-LOM V or not. Paul was tech for CCT with Mando Mishap V. I could say yes and no on that. I mean, Mando Mishap V is certainly an excellent card against CCT. I don't think Mishap is an unreasonable card to be playing in HITCO in general, though. Certainly, like pulling Leia's blaster with it is really good. Yeah, Leia's blaster is exactly what I was thinking about. I mean, I've seen builds of this also, like builds of HITCO also, that are trying to do a little bit of like Jedi Presence beatdown stuff, and then Sabine Wren is pretty good. This is the blowout card against CCT. Yeah. I mean, it is certainly that. Alright, we got Slave 1 coming down to Naboo. The Death Star is fully armed and operational. Well, except for the part where it doesn't have a gun, but we can forgive Chris that. And then presumably we'll see the Death Star 2 move over to Naboo now. I'm thinking about what Starfighter Paul might reasonably play. It's not really a lot. Hunter and the Falcon is like the one that jumps to mind the most. It's not impossible that you'd play Hunter and the Falcon in HITCO, but I think it'd be unlikely. I don't think you can. So it's going to be good for Paul. Wirfs busted. Yes, I mean Wirfs is shield busted at the moment. Um, I don't think I disagree with any of Wirfs' shield pulls here. Um, I wonder if there is like a cold feet or something in there to get an extra pull out of it, because having a do or do not here would be pretty good. So Paul not getting some actual selection out of like my father before me. Or nope, not like my father before me. Whatever the flip side of this is, he will bring balance. That's the one. And now he's just going to pay for his drains. I mean, there's not really much else for him to pay for. So there's a Scythe 1 and a short range combo, both from deck. He does add one to the drain. That's curious. I wonder if there's a control here. A Tatooine system from reserve. Nice. And then Image of the Dark Lord and Forlom V. Oh, so there is the Forlom for the potential voyeur shenanigans. Alright, enter the Bureaucrat. It's gonna reduce the drains at the Ewok village. Although I suppose that's not unreasonable to do, because he did get the 3 damage in. Does get a card out of Wirfs' hand, which is kind of another damage. Although that one can go back, so I suppose not. Oh, okay, and then yeah, Obi-Wan gets to just stand here. Luke can move over, drain, and pull the prophecy over, and then he just gets to drain 3 at the docking bay instead. That's not bad. Yeah. Desai, of course, said it first, but that, I was thinking it. I was just getting all the way through all the plays. Alright, and he needs to retrieve one. It's not really reasonable for Wirfs to lose half of his hand to stop that. So now we've got drain of 1, 3, 1, 5, 6, I believe. 2 and 3 and 1, so 6. I guess it'll be 2, 2 and 1 next turn, but. And then 2, 2, 1. Yeah, that looks right to me. Well, actually, Joker King, Paul's a little bit ahead on the damage. It'll be 5 next turn, but it'll be 6 the turn after that. How is Wirfs doing 6? Wirfs is doing drain 2, ping with. Oh, because X is 2, of course. That's. No. 2 plus, yes, X is 2. So yeah, 6. It'll be 6 to 6. To relocate before he drains with Anakin V? Yeah? Nope. Oh, with Only Hope. Sure. Sure, yes. If Paul has another Our Only Hope to commit here, then it'll be 6 to 6. Wirfs has a sense to cancel Anakin V. Okay. And manages it. Just didn't want to pick up Leia. Okay. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. Yeah. Well, and then you grab that, certainly. Yep. So they're even on damage, but Paul is retrieving one. I think that is accurate. and Wirfs is going to be behind on damage this turn. Wonder how quickly he can find. We shall double our efforts. He spent his force push already, which isn't a great start. And I would assume that this Tatooine system is the only other system that he's playing. Kashyyyk, yeah, he could be playing Kashyyyk certainly. I don't know, guys. I haven't played too much TTO. It feels like 3 systems would be a lot to play, but I don't know, maybe not. Alright, so we did his drains of 2 and 2. Lost Yoda and Lando from hand, Anakin from used, Obi-Wan from reserve. It was mostly nothing. I think Chris is just going to draw. He needs to replenish his hand, certainly. I mean, not using Commander Magic would certainly suggest to me that he doesn't have another system. Not having another system and having peeled that one could be trouble, since he... Well, I guess he'd shield busted anyway, so he can't pull resistance, but... This ice has no way it plays Endor and 3 other systems. I mean, that was my feeling, but... Wirfs plays an Accelerate to pick up a Dark Waters. Boom. Two is above par anyway. Yeah, I was going to say, I was actually kind of surprised to see the Tatooine system in there. Dan says Tatooine for Diplo and Naboo to get around Menace Fades. Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I don't know, though. There's a Slave 1 in there. I don't really think you need to care that much about that. I actually feel like the Tatooine system might be a hedge for profit, almost. Like, Naboo is in there for community decks, so that you can Tarkin's orders drains of the battle planes, or I suppose the 3/2 out of the Yoda community decks. Paul doesn't play property, he plays Diplo. Sure, but my point is that you have the independent starship to get around the limiter on that, so I don't know that you care that much. He already lost his image choker. He might have 2, but he already lost 1 certainly. Short range combo gets sensed. And then Paul puts a card back with Like My Father Before Me before he pays to drain. He does not move the prophecy, he just pays to drain to move it. Yeah, no problem. It was one of the first cards that he lost to force drain. It was actually, yeah, it was one of the cards he lost to the drain of 3 here. So the Accelerate from Use and the Destiny Liberator, the Course Ref and Irritating got lost. So yeah, he just moves the prophecy by draining. That's fine. And then a drain of 2 here. And then I assume a drain of 1 at the Ewok Village. I don't know why else he would keep it. Chris is losing from used, so he lost Tarkin and Imperial Artillery from used. He loses something special planned for them V from reserve. That is all of Paul's damage, so seems like he's probably just gonna retrieve 1 and draw some cards. Alright, Janov, I think taking the under on that number of battles thing was probably a good idea, but here we are. Sure, he's Anakin Skywalker V with his objective. That's interesting. I guess of the cards he's lost, it's probably the most reasonable because the others are all characters, so he doesn't want to play set of play. In case there's some reason why he needs them. Yeah, the others are all characters. Okay, sure. I was also thinking losing an Anakin Skywalker V is maybe not, or retrieving an Anakin Skywalker V is maybe not great since you can pick one up at any time from Prophecy, but I'm sure he has more than the 2 or 3 or whatever, so he'll lose another one eventually. Chris needs to find his U3PO. Yeah, I mean, an undercover spy would be good. Paul used sense on short range combat. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it was probably just to cause a force loss. I can't really imagine he cares about the ship. I think it was probably just to cause a point of damage. Tells me he has extra senses. I mean, probably. That is also probably true. Paul draws up to 14. I actually feel like Paul's in a far better spot here. And I was raising the question earlier as to whether Paul has space. I don't know that he's necessarily even going to need it. Paul only down 4 minutes on time. Dan's placing odds of Paul going to time. I mean, I don't really think it's likely. I don't know what Paul would need to think about. Chris doesn't seem to be playing a build of TTO that has any intention of putting something on the ground where a fight could happen, so. Paul doesn't need to disrupt Chris. Chris has to do something. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paul's up on life force and has 10 more cards in hand. So we lose an I must be allowed to speak V and a blaster deflection. Yeah, tech for CCT certainly. Um, both from reserve. Paul's losing from reserve with 15 cards in his hand. That's a choice. Wirfs is trying to revert. Paul doesn't know why. I also don't know why. Oh, Chris misclicked. He clicked through his control phase. That's what happened. Yeah. Certainly Chris is not going to win if he misses his drains, so. Yeah, Paul allows that revert. Alright, so I think Chris is going to start with his drains now. And Paul loses the same cards off reserve. Says both drains. Okay, there's an Obi-Wan with hand, an Obi-Wan with lightsaber from hand, and a rubber barrier from hand. That makes more sense to me. And then TTO damage now. I wonder if the TTO damage before the revert was just automatic, and that's why, like, Chris just accidentally clicked through it, and then the TTO damage is mandatory, so it happened, and then it went to deploy. I think that's probably where what occurred. That is the third Obi-Wan. That sounds right. Loses Luke from hand. And a rubber barrier from hand. There it is. We shall double our efforts. So that does change the status quo. So now TTO is going to do 3 damage instead of 2. I don't know if it's enough, is the problem. So we got the Dark Waters also to reduce some damage, to reduce some of the drains. So Chris has changed the math here on this. He's doing 7 damage now against Paul's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and retrieve 1. So Chris is out damaging him by 1 now. Problem is that Chris is behind already by a fair bit in terms of life force. So yeah, I know TTO damage is mandatory, Dan. What I think probably happened there was that what I think probably happened was that Chris just clicked all the way through. Like, I don't think he clicked on the TTO. I think he clicked all the way through and then made the TTO damage happen because it's mandatory. And then he realized that he had clicked through his control phase. Because it would be weird to click on the TTO and then not click on the lit up systems to drain. Hey, there's the cold feet. Pulling impressive enforcement. Well, since they both shown sense, that makes sense. That makes some logical sense here. I was trying not to double up the sense, but I couldn't remember it now. What is the more boring game, this or the SNF game? I mean, I don't know what SNF stands for, so probably that one would be my vote. Sunday Night Football, is that what it means? My vote's probably still with that one. I have no idea what's going on in the Sunday Night Football game, but me being who I am, I'm going to say that the football game is probably less exciting. Lots of rain. So Paul is using his reserve deck peak with his objective. Yeah, so currently we're 20 down for Paul against 12 for Chris, and Paul has 2 more cards in hand. So up 10 total. 20, 12, 8. Yeah, up 10 total, and then before he causes his damage to the turn. So he's going to be up 15 on Chris by the time he passes the turn. I guess 16. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Yeah. He's going to be up 16 by the time he passes the turn to Chris. I think that margin is too wide for Chris to be able to close it. Because, I mean, the life force down thing is another important thing. They're both paying to drain, but Paul being that far ahead on cards down just means he's going to be able to pay to drain long enough to close the game out, I think. Sometimes TTO having free damage matters a fair bit, but I think in this case that I don't think in this case that it does. TTO puts so many cards on the table, plus he'll still setting up. Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that like Chris didn't get any TTO damage going until turn 4, I believe it was. And that's too slow, I think. Like you really needed to find an extra sector somewhere in there. Alright, so let's see what happened here. We got drains, losing from hand, lost a Darth Maul from reserve, and then a short range from hand. Yeah, Chris just like has to lose from hand as much as possible so he can keep paying for stuff. But like, Paul's gonna be able to pay for his drains for certainly long enough, I think. So now, of course, we do get to the part where we're playing for for diff here, since it is a playoff match between the two of these guys, the differential is going to matter. Let's see, Myers. So that actually in mind, I do wonder if Chris needs to start stacking cards to prevent this retrieval, to keep the differential lower. It'll also keep his tiebreaker lower because cards stacked on I feel the conflict don't count towards the lost pile tiebreakers. That's a weird way the GIMP displays that. Looks like Chris chose not to stack a card, which is reasonable. Yeah, then he retrieves the Anakin Skywalker V. Chris disagrees with my assessment, doesn't think he should stack cards now. Where if he does not put cards in his lost fellows, he can't win. That's a penetrating observation, Dan. Chris's only hope here is to be ahead at the end of the game. I can do it too. Yeah, Paul's drawing cards. I don't actually really know why. What could he be drawing for here? I guess sense. Let's see. He could be drawing for sense. He has his own Virgins, which isn't going to do anything. I don't know if he has a second escape pod combo. I don't know if he has like an it could be worse. Yeah, he just draws 3 and stops. So he's 20 down to 11 now, and up 9 in hand. Plays the Anakin Skywalker V. Just verifies the deck. Just putting cards back now. Yeah, he retreats with. What did he retreat? He retreated Rebel Barrier with Walkling. I don't really think he cares about the actual card. Alright, so now we got the drains. Wirfs is going to cause 7 damage here, which I would be surprised if Paul didn't lose all of it from hand. Yep, Blaster Deflection, Projection. Drain 2. Odin combo, I guess I should say. It would be a real surprise if he was playing Odin S or a non-combo, but he's thinking about the other one. Loses the Virgins from hand. Joe's rant about Y4 reminds me of why I don't like playing with TTO. It's the same problem. Yeah. I think that's mostly true. TTO's a single theater deck, much the same way that Y4 is. So, just does damage with the objective instead of just with drains. I think it's a fair comparison. Alright, and then Paul's lost a Blaster Deflection from hand. He's thinking about the last couple. I wonder when it becomes reasonable to move one of the Naboo ships over to Endor, move Vader's personal shuttle to the Death Star 2, and then, oh wait, no, you probably can't do this because this is an interior site. Yep, never mind. I was hoping you could land and block a drain, but you can't do that. There's a Rebel Barrier from reserve deck and Anakin Skywalker V from hand. Why did you, I'm really curious what the cards in Paul's hand are. Ooh, okay, alright. So we found the U3PO. That's going to block the drain of 3 next turn. That makes it a pretty good turn sequence for Chris, because that means he's only going to take 2 damage next turn. That's not bad at all. Does he run the free ride combo? I don't know. It would be reasonable for him to do so, because I think there's likely a Daughter of Skywalker in here. Every Grand Duck should be running the free ride combo. Yeah, probably. I mean, free ride combo is really good. I actually don't remember what I don't remember what the numbers were on that card at Worlds. I actually don't know if they were posted. World stats. That wasn't what I was hoping it would be. I suppose the card by card stats are probably tougher to. Okay, so it's going to be 3 damage because he has the Our Only Hope to move the projection, or the prophecy? It's not projection. Prophecy of the Force. And then he puts a card back with, like, my father, which makes sense. Alright, and we're doing some drain damage. We lose Major Meanda from hand for Chris, and no escape from hand. And then drain a 1. Move the prophecy back over. That's kind of unfortunate. Not really anything he can do about that, but loses the Saber 1 from hand for that drain. So Chris has actually done a pretty good job of mitigating the damage here. Checking on the chat here. Left one is Enter the Bureaucrat. Oh, well, you might tell us what the 2 red cards are on the sides. Yes. This one is Dark Waters, reducing this drain by 1. And then this one is Enter the Bureaucrat, limiting the damage to this drain from 1 to 1. Quite a mercenary V to break the cover of U3PO. And steals it. Yeah, I mean, the Quite a Mercenary is, I would almost say, a more reasonable choice for HITCO than the free ride combo. That's not actually true. Both of them are reasonable choices. Running one of each one of each makes sense. I say it's the more reasonable choice because HITCO in its current incarnations is likely to play Chewy Protector, and then that being the case, that pushes the value of Quite a Mercenary up by a fair bit. All right. Well, I am failing in my attempt at searching the world's forums for card use. So, trying to see how many free ride combos got played, but I don't know that data is available. I think I saw it, but I don't remember where now. And then Quite a Mercenary V gets retreated the objective, and then Baron gets stacked from hand to place that out of play. Yeah, with the U3PO cover broken, I do wonder if Chris is now feeling like he needs to limit the diff there. Played 2 in Y4. Yeah, you of course you play 2 in Y4 though. Yeah, Derek, I agree. I don't think that those stats got posted, but nice of Paul to continue drawing big hands. Yeah, I don't really like. I yeah, I'm not 100% sure what why Paul has done that. I mean, it's not quite over, but yeah, there's the Chewy Protector and a Yoda, a third Yoda from hand, and heading for the Medical Frigate from hand. So I thought there's no reason for him not to do that because Wirfs isn't going to draw up, and cards like Sense have good value. Yeah, Ahsoka and Sorry from hand, sure. Oh, BBQ 7, where's Joe? I forgot to mention this at the beginning, at the start of the thing, guys, because I know it was advertised this way. Joe hasn't had power at his house for, I want to say, 3 hours. So that's why he's not with us right now. They are like my understanding is that it's being worked on by the power company, but it wasn't gonna happen tonight. So or wasn't gonna happen in time for this. Windstorm. I don't actually know. I don't know what the exact situation was up there. He said it was an area outage. It wasn't just his house. So, all right. So Paul did lose a saber from reserve, but otherwise lost everything from hand. He did lose a sense from hand. Need to buy a generator, Harpster. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what his situation is. Lots of places without power. Crazy wind in Seattle today. Yeah, sounds like Joe's probably one of those then. Do we have a lineup for OCS matches for the week? We do, and I'll get that for you guys in a second here. Call from across the west coast. Look pretty serious. Lots of wind in Vancouver as well. Yeah. There is a forum post about it. Um, that's right. I do know that he doesn't have a generator because he doesn't have power in his house. Because I do know he doesn't have power in his house. Um, Alright, then our only hope from hand to move the prophecy back over to the Death Star 2 site, where it'll cause more damage. Cold Feet again. For code clearance to cover Jedi or Jedi Lev. Sure. Hidden benefit, I wonder, to Paul drawing up a big hand there was it gets him to where he can now activate down to that Our Only Hope and um pick it up with his objective, so you can make sure that the prophecy is on the site he wants it to be on every turn. Moving the prophecy thing twice is dirty. Yeah. Yeah. And Chris is just losing from hand, lost from forest pile. I'm trying to one again. He hasn't actually picked up that Our Only Hope. He could very well have another one already and doesn't need to. So, but yes. What the sign is saying is if you use Our Only Hope to move the prophecy um, to the Death Star 2 during Worf's turn. You can then drain at the Death Star 2, use Our Only Hope again to move the prophecy to Luke's site, drain there again, and then, yeah, so you can move it around multiple times. Although if you do sequence it that way, it'll end up on Obi-Wan's site, which is maybe not great. I guess if you have another Our Only Hope, then it's fine because um, you can then move it back to Yoda's site during Chris's turn and do the whole thing again. Apparently, we're poking fun at Decipher finishing 9th twice. I don't know. Paul by like 11. Yeah, probably. Just choose a Luke now with the objective, because why not? Let's see. He has retrieved with Prophecy Dan, so that's already been done. To do 7 next turn, which is potentially all 5 from hand. And then 2 more. Should be 14. Or if he doesn't stack, he gets 1 more TTO in. Yeah? Yeah. He did not stack, so. This goes back to used, right? You could use Enter the Bureaucrat to get another TTO in also. Should we fall by 12? I believe that's correct. 2, and then the 2 drains, be 2 more. And 1 more TTO for 3. Yeah. 12 count sounds right to me, Justin, unless something else happens. I don't really know what that would be. I think it should be 12. Because on Paul's turn, he's going to drain, 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 retrieve 1. And then on Chris's turn, he'll cause him to lose 3. We're going to see Paul's redux of IE. I don't know. Maybe. I haven't really seen anybody play IE in a while, although I haven't really been looking that closely, so. I mean, still, sure. I mean, the deal deck is certainly known as well, so. And one of the decks that you'd have to think that Wirfs puts Paul on playing. Doesn't mean it's wrong for him to play it, but it is a consideration in this kind of match environment where you can change decks for every opponent. Um, Playing the deck that they expect you to play, particularly if it's easily teched for, is a choice. Um, if you think it's the best deck by far, then maybe you still do it. Because comfort with the deck does mean a fair bit, but you do have to consider the edge that you're giving, the edge that you're getting from being comfortable with the deck versus the edge you're giving up by playing a known quantity. So Paul's thinking a lot about what cards he has to lose. I mean, he's got the time. Hard to imagine that Paul's going to use 16 more minutes on his clock by the end of this game. So, I was debating limited resources. Sure, sure. That'd be a heck of a last card. It's not an unreasonable thing for it to be the last card in Chris's hand, though, especially because he can still get the extra turn of TTO damage that we were talking about with Enter the Bureaucrats. Ooh. Well, Vader Shuttle landed just not where I thought it was going to land. Trying to squeak out an extra bit of damage from TTO here. I think I missed, yeah, I missed an R only hope moving the prophecy back over. Hmm. 7-tracked. I mean, Paul having his Destiny tracked at this point wouldn't be at all unreasonable since he's been using like my father pretty aggressively and all. Or are we talking about Chris? Chris having the 7-tracked would be tough since he's gonna have to lose 4 force before the damage happens, or before the battle happens. Although I guess maybe not, because Paul Paul's debating his activation. He's only activated 2 so far. I wonder if one of the last cards in his hand is just sorry about the mess, and he's trying to establish. He's trying to figure out whether he can. That doesn't really make sense, though. Sorry about the mess here just wouldn't matter in control. Unless you also have, like, Leia and Leia's gun to just overflow for the win here, but that doesn't really look likely. Paul potentially in trouble. I mean, the sorry about the mess would help a lot here. Oh. See, he leaves 6 in. He leaves 6 in reserve. Drains 3. We got Imperial Barrier, Sense, Accelerate from deck for wirfs. There's the sorry about the mess. Yeah. So Vader will be off the table now for the battle that's about to happen. Oh, and his objective is going to flip immediately now. because Vader's gone. Wonder why he left 4. I guess his last card, one of his last 2 cards is probably a sense, so he could pay, he could sense. Um, I guess not a balance combo, but something. I wonder if he has like Clash. So it must be to protect from sense. Retreat costs 1 saber swing ability. Yeah. I think the trouble spot for him is he's not going to do overflow here. Because this is 8 forfeit. Should not battle so he can retrieve, otherwise Wirfs just loses cards from deck instead of characters. No, because he needs to get those characters off the table because he's satisfying battle plan now. So Wirfs just gets to cause 2 free damage if those characters live through the turn. So I don't think he can. I don't think he can not battle. There's also like no way that Paul can lose this battle. I don't think. So he's gonna get a stack from I Feel the Conflict. Meditation. Okay. Well, that's a reason to have the 4th card in there. I mean, he might go overflow now actually. Didn't expect that. I mean, Paul's. It's been pretty clear this whole time that Paul's deck is tacked out for CCT. Meditation V is uh, another card for that. Yeah, there's no way these aren't hits. Certainly impossible for him to lose the battle now. Would be interesting if there was a 7 on top there, but I don't think it's likely. He's still gonna get your retrieved in. Grimtosh. This could be GG. Well, no. There's the 8. And this is 8 forfeit across these 2. So he's covering 13 currently. Yeah, so. No battle damage. He does stack the card from his hand. Has to be the card from his hand, right? Yep. And then he goes 5 damage now from. Now he does 5 damage back. So it's actually only going to be Paul by 7? No, 8. Without meditation, it could have been really bad. Yeah. He certainly needed to draw enough in Destiny to clear, so I think that's why he verified the deck with Insurrection. Saw that it was possible that he would not draw enough with 1 Destiny to clear him, so he probably had to have the meditation for that. Yeah, we activate, train 2, ping 3. Yeah, pretty solid for wirfs there. Like, cause we'd figured it was going to be 12 the previous turn. He did find a line that got it to 8. So Chris could have set that up better. Landed Vader and Fett. Yeah. I wonder if he maybe didn't see it until late enough that it was too late to do it. Sorry, but the mess would have crimped that. Sure, but yeah. Just land up his landing. Let's set up drains of both systems if he could have survived. Yeah. Alright, there it is. So Paul wins by 8, 33 to 36 in loss pile. So really close. 36 for Chris. So really close. Really close game overall. Which I think is kind of what you expect out of TTO versus HITCO. And yeah, next game is going to be tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain Time for me, which is the most important time. I will be presenting that game to you again as well. I don't think I have anybody even planning on joining me, so it'll just be me again. Um, but hope you guys enjoyed our game of Star Wars tonight, where one battle happened. So I did correctly call the over. So there's that. Um, and yeah, we'll see what these two guys bring out for game two. With a separation to 8, anything really could happen. Eight's just not eight's not very much. So yeah, could be anyone's match still. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. That'll be me signing off for tonight, and we'll see you guys at the same time tomorrow.